I've been playing Arknight Enfield almost every day since release, nearly a month now. I've reached Endgame, and that's when everything shifted. Because once the progression slows down, once the systems fully open up, you start seeing the game for what it really is. So yeah, this feels like the right time to talk about it. Okay, so let's start with the most basic aspect, the graphics. Dang, they're really good. I'm not going to lie, when I first started the game, I expected something hyper-realistic like Wuthering Waves, which isn't really my preference. I kept playing anyway because I saw potential, but boy was I wrong. The blend between realism and anime styling feels incredibly well balanced in this game. It reminds me of a slightly more realistic Persona 5, rather than the more anime-leaning style of Genshin Impact. As long as it's not hyper-realistic like Final Fantasy, I guess I love it. I genuinely fell in love with the visual style, and honestly, that's what kept me playing for at least the first 2 weeks. After that, it just became normal, but in a good way. I had simply gotten used to how good it looked. Without a doubt, the visuals and overall graphic presentation are one of the game's strongest selling points. Now, while we're talking about graphics, let's also touch on character design. This is purely personal preference, but so far I really only like Li Feng, Leva, and Perlica. That's it. I do like the main character design to some extent, but the mask is the only thing that turns me off. Both the male and female protagonists actually look much better without it. The 3D character models are great overall. It's just a shame we don't have more posing options, like being able to move arms or adjust body positioning for screenshots. I really wanted to take better pictures of Leva and Li Feng, because, you know, for science. Maybe that feature will be added in the future. Who knows? Obviously, good graphics alone wouldn't make me stay if the rest of the game was bad. Since Arknight Enfield is competing with titles like Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact, the first thing I noticed was how familiar the gameplay felt. For me personally, the battle system feels like something in between Genshin Impact and Zenless Zone Zero. Why? Because of the element system and the combo skill system. The element system feels inspired by Genshin Impact, while the combo skill system reminds me of Zenless Zone Zero. I might be wrong, but that's just my personal impression. Right now, the elemental system isn't as complex as Genshin's, at least not yet, since the game is just launched. We have 4 main elements: heat, electric, cryo, and nature, plus physical as an additional attribute. As expected, these elements can react with each other to deal bonus damage. But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike Genshin's reaction system, Enfield has 2 types of elemental interactions: reactions between different elements, called arts reactions, reactions within the same element, called arts burst. That distinction alone makes the system feel fresh, and I think it opens up a lot of room for future character design. Now, let's talk about what excites me the most, the combo skill system. Every character has unique trigger conditions for their combo skill. Some trigger it during arts burst, some during arts reactions, others during final attacks. And there are still many unexplored trigger possibilities. When you combine the element system and the combo system together, that's what makes the combat so addictive, even at this early stage of the game. Take Levitain, for example. She triggers her combo skill whenever the arts reaction called combustion happens, and most of her teammates can also trigger combo skills through final attacks, combustion reactions, or arts infliction. Right now, combo skills require setup. You need to trigger reactions or final attacks first. But imagine this. What if a future character's combo skill triggers just by pressing their skill? Or even from a single normal attack? That would be insane. And I'm not just talking about one character interaction. I'm talking about full 4-member party synergy. The potential here for creative team building and playstyle experimentation is honestly huge. We can't talk about the battle system without also talking about the farming system. And let me tell you, this farming system is complex. I'll give the developers credit for that. It's definitely more complex than Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, or Zenless Zone Zero. Maybe even a little too complex for casual players, especially at the beginning. The basics are familiar. You farm currency, you farm character EXP, you farm weapon EXP, you farm materials for skills and talents. Up to this point, it feels very similar to other gacha RPGs. But then we get to the 2 systems that make everything more complicated: the gear system and the essence system. When I think about it, it's basically the equivalent of Genshin's artifact system, but more annoying. Yes, more annoying, at least for now. Let's talk about the gear system first, because I haven't even fully started farming essence yet. The funny thing about gear is that you can't just farm it normally. You need to get your plant system running properly if you want to mass-produce gear materials. Why mass-produce? Because upgrading gear requires a lot of materials. First, you need to level up your base, especially the Wuling base, to access higher tier gear materials. A level 1 base is simply not enough. From what I understand, having depot access is the bare minimum if you want to efficiently manage and optimize your plant structure. Once you finally get all that set up and start producing gear materials at a steady daily rate, then you unlock the Artifice system. And what is that? It's basically feeding duplicate gear into your main gear until it reaches max level. The frustrating part? You can only feed gear of the same level, at least from what I've experienced. That restriction makes the process slower and more tedious than it needs to be. Am I annoyed? Yes. Am I still working on it? Also yes. Since we're already talking about gear, we also need to talk about the plant system. The two are basically inseparable, and honestly, like many players, I have a love-hate relationship with this system. On one hand, it's extremely fun. If you enjoy customization and optimization, you can spend hours designing and refining your plant layout to make it as efficient as possible. And I really mean hours. Sometimes I start adjusting things, and before I realize it, 4 hours have passed. It's that addictive. But it's not just about gear production. The plant system can also generate healing items, which, at least for now, makes dedicated healers feel less necessary. Although, to be fair, we also don't have many healer options in the game yet. Now, for players who don't enjoy micromanaging systems, don't worry. You can simply copy other players' blueprints and use their optimized setups. That said, I have to emphasize this. Getting your plant system running properly is mandatory for progression. If you ignore it, you'll quickly notice how much harder even simple story missions become. The difference is massive. It genuinely affects your overall power and efficiency. It's one of the most impactful systems in the game right now. Right now, we don't really have a proper endgame mode. At the moment, the plant system is honestly what's keeping the community busy. There isn't much happening on the event side either, so there's not a lot to talk about there. For players who have already cleared the main story, the routine is pretty simple. You max out your characters, levels, weapons, skills, and talents. After that, you move on to optimizing gear, artifice, and essence, and once all of that is done, you just keep farming. Unfortunately, there's no equivalent to something like Spiral Abyss or Memory of Chaos yet, so there's no true competitive or repeatable endgame challenge at this stage. To be fair, the developers have acknowledged the lack of endgame content. They've responded to player feedback and are pushing events forward faster. But aside from that, for someone like me who has cleared the story and is nearing full optimization, my daily routine is pretty relaxed. Just dailies, upgrading characters, refining gear, and slowly maxing out the plant system. And honestly, I'm just chilling in Arknight's Enfield right now, waiting for the next big content drop. That's partly why I had the time to make this video. Before I forget, we need to talk about the gacha system. I genuinely don't understand why people keep complaining about it. Personally, I find it pretty generous. Here's why. If you roll all the way to hard pity for a limited character, you're basically guaranteed their signature weapon as well. Why? Because every pull on the character banner gives you currency that can be used on the weapon banner. So if you reach high pity for a character, you naturally accumulate enough resources to secure the signature too. In that sense, the signature weapon almost feels free, as long as you commit to pulling the character. And that's not all. Even if you lose the 50-50, there's a chance you get another limited character who might be scheduled for a future banner. That's actually pretty interesting. I can't recall many gacha games that allow something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but from the ones I've played, this feels unique. Now, I do have one complaint. The daily currency income feels a bit low. Compared to Genshin Impact, for example, it seems like we get fewer pulls over time, at least right now. But the game is still new, so this could change in future updates. Overall, though, I don't think the gacha system is as bad as people make it out to be. All in all, I genuinely enjoy this game. I definitely plan to make more review videos about Arknight's Enfield alongside my Honkai Star Rail content, of course. I love the graphics, I enjoy the gameplay. Some parts do annoy me, but they're manageable. That said, this game is definitely not for casual gacha players, at least not right now. It requires a lot of time and effort, especially in the early stages. I'm not sure every casual player would have the patience to go through all the systems before reaching endgame. In that regard, I think Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail handle accessibility better. But let's not lose hope. The game has just been released. Improvements will definitely come with future updates. And who knows, with the potential this game has, it might one day compete with, or even surpass, the top gacha titles. So that's pretty much everything for today's video. What do you think about Arknight's Enfield? Are you enjoying the game so far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye bye!